Welcome to the Texas Values Report, or the latest edition of a Texas Values Facebook video. I get so used to saying that with our weekly radio show. Welcome to our Facebook Live. This is part one of 2020 highlights and victories for Texas Values. Hey, look, I snuck into the Texas Capitol, right? I'm in the House Gallery, just trying to have a little fun with everybody because we're going to be back in the Capitol soon. This is really what my office looks like. If you've never been here, you want to come hang out with me sometime. Hey, I got to cross my office. Got my law license. Where is it? Right over here. Certainly glad and thankful that for, boy, I lose count, 17 years now, I've been licensed to practice law in the state of Texas. But we've got some great things that have happened here in Texas Values this year. So we want to bring some of those highlights to you. We've got a great slideshow we're going to go through. We got members of our team that are also on this video call. Got Mary Elizabeth Castle, Policy Advisor for Texas Values, Vice President of Texas Values, David Walls, and also Joseph Walter, who does development work for us as well, and a variety of other things. Doing a great job running this Zoom and Facebook Live. How many times have you said that this year, the word Zoom? It's been an interesting year, but you know what? It didn't keep us from doing what we do best, which is to protect faith, family, and freedom in Texas. And we do that in the courts, the legislature, and the media. And we think we're one of the best investments in the state of Texas for that work. And I had the Capitol in my background earlier because our office, is 2 blocks from the Capitol, and a member of our team will be there all 140 days of the Texas legislative session, which starts in about 2.5 weeks. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But you got a great opportunity as we're going through this video to hear some highlights, maybe top 5, top 10, wherever it fits into your list, and see how you can make a tax-deductible donation at txvalues.org. But let's go through the slides, show a little bit about some of the work that we've been doing, but also to remind you of the people that do the work for faith, family, and freedom. You probably hear me a lot, maybe you see me a lot, other members of our team, but there are a lot of other people that are part of our work. So I want to make sure people know that, and that'll give you an idea of, our budget's close to 1.4 million. And so there are a lot of people a part of our work. We can go to that slide, Joseph. And so people can see the members of our team in the that we're doing. You've got myself, David up there, our newest member of ours, Brian English, who is the Church Ambassador Network Director, Jonathan Covey, who started with us earlier this year, our Policy Director, and our good friends Judah Atkinson, Pastor Jorge Tovar, Nancy Carter, who's holding down the front desk and is getting a lot of attention. You can call Nancy actually right now. I don't hear the phone ringing. 512-478-2220, 512-478-2220. You can make a tax-deductible donation right now. Naomi Narvaez, and then, of course, Rosemary down there that Pradia, that does great social media support. I always want to use her maiden name, Graber. So really appreciate Rosemary and all the work and all the members of our team, the members of our board. We've got supporters in all 254 counties of the state of Texas. And that's why we've been able to accomplish some of these things over the year. And this is a list that goes back for about 5 years, but you'll see right there in the middle, one of the key stories and victories of this year was beating Planned Parenthood in court. Remember earlier in the year, there was a shutdown regarding non-essential health care to make sure that items were preserved as we all went through the coronavirus issues. Oh, but not Planned Parenthood. They filed a lawsuit against the state of Texas because they think abortion is essential. We disagree, as you know. We're a very pro-life organization. So we filed a brief at the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, standing alongside with or supporting the state of Texas in that lawsuit when the abortion group sued the state of Texas, and we got victory in that case. The court ruled that for about 2 weeks, this was a ruling that was in place. Abortions were not being performed in the state of Texas. We think for the first time since Roe versus Wade, about 2,000 lives potentially saved. We defeated Austin sex ed and a variety of things we've done over the years. The past 4 legislative sessions, we've helped pass a religious liberty law and a pro-life law in the state of Texas. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute as we'll go to the next slide. Just some highlights from some of our work. You see Mary Elizabeth Castle there. Great event we did in Houston right before the election to get Christians more engaged and get them out to vote. Of course, our Faith and Family Freedom policy event that we had here in Austin doubled the number in attendance. A lot of that was online. And then, of course, a variety of Zoom meetings that we've had over the years. If you want to keep moving along, Joseph. And then some of the work we did kind of out in the field. It's a little more challenging to do some of the work that we do to get out and about because of some of the restrictions or people's hesitancy related to virus issues or whatever. But we still made an effort one way or another to meet people where they were, have people like Abby Johnson at our event. Remember that great speech she gave about these issues? And so, but, look, one of the new projects that we have this year is the Church Ambassador Network. And so that is a new project, as you can see here. That's Brian English, who's now the director. That's a new project. We've got 6 figures already invested in this, but we need your financial support because there are thousands of churches across the state of Texas. We want to have them connected. This is about bringing a relationship between the shepherds of God's church and God's government. So they're more informed about what their rights are, and government officials know how then, once they're connected, how important the church is. That'll make it real easy for us to know and for people to start appreciating that churches are essential. So, but Church Ambassador Network, new project, love to see you invest in that. And I want to bring in a member of our team, Mary Elizabeth Castle, as we turn to a little bit some of our policy work. And then I'll bring David Walls in. Mary Elizabeth, you worked a lot on these issues. We were on calls, we were in meetings doing substantial work to stand alongside churches to help them navigate these local rules throughout the year, so they could really just stay open, or if they were going to close for a short period, or if they were going to decide what capacity they could be open, to understand what the law says and how they could operate and do what they do best as a church. Talk to us a little bit about your work with that.
Yeah, that's right, Jonathan. A lot of churches and pastors especially were concerned about whether or not they could open during the pandemic. In the very beginning of the pandemic, everything was closed, and we had that definition of what was deemed essential and what was deemed not essential. And churches were never really defined in those parameters of being essential. So a lot of churches were closed for several weeks, not knowing whether or not they could actually worship, which they have the First Amendment right to do. And of course, we saw across the nation where churches were actually told that they had to close. But at Texas Values, we made sure that churches and pastors knew that they had the right to open. We helped them by actually, sending a letter to the Attorney General, finding out from the governor if they can actually open and have the green light to open, to have either outdoor services like some churches were having, and to have indoor services, which they have the right to do. And in the end, we were able to help a lot of churches stay open.
Well, look, and that work continues. I mean, we still get questions, and we still are having discussions with pastors and churches on these matters because of what we see happening in other parts of the country. I mean, there are court cases at the U.S. Supreme Court. People are just trying to have church services on Christmas. And so we're almost a year into these efforts by a lot of times local governments to shut people down. I know of a story in San Antonio where law enforcement were circling the church when they were having church services in the parking lot of all places. And that still wasn't good enough. And so our work's going to continue in that regard. And we're going to continue to work on that in the state legislative session, where I know we're going to be involved in efforts to make it clear in state law that churches are essential. And that work starts pretty soon at the Texas Capitol, as you know, and as members of our team know. And so, but that's not the only work that we did on some of these policy issues during the pandemic. And we'll talk a little bit more about those in a minute regarding some of the work we did for pro-life pregnancy centers. But one of the big victories, one of the top 5, at least probably has to be in the top 5, top 10. We'll see about ranking them soon here. But one of the big victories was that Austin ISD canceled radical sex education this school year. Mary Elizabeth, I know you worked a lot on that. I also know our Vice President, David Walls, spent a lot of time on that. And that was really something that carried over from 2019, when the sex education was supposed to be taught in May. But with the thousands of people opposing it, the school district realizing they were creating a lot of enemies. And now a lot of kids were going virtual during the spring earlier this year. We were thankful that Austin ISD made the decision to cancel that. But I don't think a lot of people saw that. What a big deal that as a result of our efforts, Austin ISD canceled sex education. David, you were such a big part of this. Tell us a little bit about your involvement.
Yeah, well, this was, as I've shared before, this was a personal issue. Some of our team members, myself included, live in the Austin area. My son used to attend schools in Austin ISD. And this is a a concerted effort, and we'll talk a little bit more about our battles at the State Board of Education, but we are seeing a concerted effort to push LGBT indoctrination, pro-abortion, radical sex education in public schools all across Texas. And Austin was really the focal point for a good long while leading up to earlier this year. And we certainly were thankful. And we continue to put the pressure on Austin ISD when the school district, when things kind of initially shut down earlier this year and school went virtual. We were, along with some of our partners here in the Austin area, continued to put pressure on Austin ISD to not move forward with this curriculum, especially in light of the circumstances with what happened with the virus and the shutdowns and so forth. But this was an important policy victory, essentially protecting over 80,000 students here in the Austin area from receiving radical sex education. But it's not just about Austin, as I know we're going to jump into probably right now. This battle actually had a statewide impact in terms of what we were doing at the State Board of Education. The same radicalized so-called comprehensive sex education agenda that they were pushing in Austin, these advocates were turning around and pushing or wanting to push into our state health standards at the State Board of Education, which would have potentially impacted what was going to be taught to, I believe, 5.5 million plus kids in public schools. And I know I'll turn it over to Mary Elizabeth again. She was instrumental in our work there at the State Board of Education for many, many months that allowed for a statewide victory on this issue.
Well, and before she comes in, this is just one of my many plugs, okay? And so look, we do need to raise money by the end of this year, by December 31st. And one of the ways you might like to have one of our items here, okay? This is what comes out of all these policies that push sexual orientation, gender identity. An effort is to crowd out Christians, to crowd the Bible out, all right? So we came up with a nice mug here, the Gonzalez flag, but also if I can get it into my camera well, that's the Bible in the middle of that, okay? With the come and take it message, nice coffee cup. And, you know, usually we're asking a little bit more for donations, but just on this call, okay, a donation of $50 or more, but you can't just make the donation. You got to make it clear to us. Send an email to info@txvalues.org and say coffee mug, okay, or mug, all right? With the $50 donation, we'll make that deal. We usually ask a little bit more, but times have been tough this year, okay? And we've seen that with a lot of folks that usually support at some of those levels. It's been hard for them. And so look, warm things up this time of year and remind what's important, what you consider an essential $50 donation. I interrupted you though, Mary Elizabeth. Close to 20,000 people engaged with us at the State Board of Education. And it wasn't just a month of work. I mean, it was going on for about a year at least. And you and our team helped lead these efforts.
Yeah, that's right, Jonathan. 20,000 people reached out. And I think that was just 20,000 in the month of November that reached out to the State Board of Education about the health standards. And like you mentioned, that State Board of Education reviews subjects, you know, over a period of time. And so the health standards were up for review this time. And it began with choosing content advisors who would go through the standards, the old standards, and review them and make suggestions. And there was controversy then because there were pro-life content advisors. Then we had the work groups, and we asked many of you to actually volunteer on work groups, and some of you did. And we're really grateful for that because the standards that the work groups sent to the State Board of Education were very solid. They promoted abstinence. They did not include LGBTQ issues. They did not include abortion or the topic of consent, which we'll discuss later on. So the standards that were sent to the State Board of Education this year in June were really solid. However, we saw a huge effort by groups like Texas Freedom Network and different LGBT groups. A lot of pro-abortion groups even came and testified at the State Board of Education. And we're talking about close to 200 of these people advocating for the radical sex education that you saw in Austin ISD to be statewide. However, those efforts failed, and they failed greatly. The State Board of Education had very solid standards, you know, teaching kids abstinence, teaching them to set goals, teaching them the success sequence to finish high school, get a job and get married before having children, teaching them that marriage is not the same as committed relationships, which was another effort to kind of change the rhetoric that the LGBT groups and other sex ed groups try to promote at the State Board of Education. And so we saw a lot.
And as you remember, Mary Elizabeth, this is where the pro-abortion groups were really trying to get a lot of their agenda because, look, they've had a lot of trouble at the local level in a lot of ways. There's been laws that have passed that have made it clear that the majority of people in the state of Texas are pro-life. And so they figure, well, a lot of people aren't paying attention. If we can get into the education system and start promoting things that support abortion, normalizing it more, really a lot of policies we've seen at the local level that make it easier for teenage girls to go around their parents or avoid their parents and have people that are pushing abortion, taking them to abortion clinics. A lot of those radical efforts were focused on education issues. And a lot of people didn't realize how much work the other side was putting it in. That's why it was so important that we were there.
Yeah, that's right, Jonathan. A lot of pro-abortion groups, one in particular that actually helps underage girls get abortions behind their parents' backs. They were trying to put in the standards that abortion is a right, for a child. Thankfully, we were able to stop any mention of abortion. And also there was a standard in the health standards that said students have to learn about fetal development and have to learn about the creation of life. And there was a huge effort to have that struck out. It was even struck out at one of the preliminary levels in the work groups. And we were, very active in making sure that that was put back in so students can value life because it's basic biology. And that's what it should be about at the end of the day, not ideologies, not about abortion, but basic biology and creating healthy kids.
Well, and look, we spent a lot of time working on this and we didn't do it alone. A lot of our friends worked together on this issue, but there are 15 elected State Board of Education members. And look, you'll get about 8 or 9 votes, going the direction that we support. So sometimes those numbers can get really tight, but this is a process that was going on for about a year, or a little bit longer than that. And, look, it played out differently. A lot of these, these meetings were virtual. Sometimes there were technical issues. Sometimes, you weren't sure when you were going to get called. You didn't know how long the meeting was going to go. A lot of different variety of factors that sometimes can be a little different when you're in person, or the technology can be a little bit challenging for folks. I think in some ways it helped us that more people were able to connect because they didn't have to travel all the way to Austin. But I think the meetings in person, I still prefer them, but all of that we were able to adapt, and so were our people. We were able to show them how to get in, how to get signed up, and how to make a difference. And so we'll see, but that is now in place, at least in this subject area, for at least the next 8 to 10 years. But that's not the only pro-life efforts that we were involved in. I know something you really spearheaded too was earlier in the year when some of the pregnancy centers weren't sure if they would still be able to be open. Big issue, big victory, if you will, that we got by being able to make it clear. And we had certain pregnancy centers saying they wouldn't have been able to stay open had they not had the legal guidance that we provided.
That's right, Jonathan. With everything closing down and a lot of confusion around what could open, especially with the efforts that we talked about earlier of Planned Parenthood trying to, actually commit abortions during that time, pregnancy resource centers were actually curious, could they be open? Were they considered somehow essential in these local ordinances that we had? And our good friend Lori DeVillas actually reached out and wondered if she could open, because a lot of these pregnancy resource centers provide a lot of essential services. They provide diapers, they provide baby formula, they provide blankets, they provide financial assistance to women in counseling in time of need. And they provide a lot of things that women who are indigent or have a lot of needs really need, especially if they're considering life for their child, which they should. And so we were able to put together a memo looking at our local ordinance here in Austin and seeing that within those parameters, pregnancy resource centers can stay open because of what they can provide to the community and provide to women, and actually help, babies stay alive and be able to eat and have all the necessities that they need. And so that was a really great victory for the pregnancy resource centers. A lot of them provided services throughout the pandemic to women. I know several that, actually were able to help more women during this time, actually were able to save more babies' lives during this time by staying open. So that was a very good victory for life.
No, a lot of value there, and blame it on me. I pushed the schedule a little bit longer than I told the team that we'd be on the video. So nothing new. That'll be on my New Year's resolution, something to work on. But we mentioned before, great victory against the pro-abortion efforts in court. And we'll move to the next slide so people can be, now that you've seen some of the work we do, you can look at some really ways that you can get involved. And I'm going to go another step further. You can see here, we've got a matching grant in place. Donations up to $73,000 are going to be matched. And I'd love for you to make a gift today of $1,000, $2,500, $5,000, but maybe all you can give is $5. Maybe all you can give is $1. We want everyone a part of this. There are hundreds of thousands of people on our email list. We've got 250,000 people on Facebook that follow us. We love everybody just to make a donation of any amount, $1, whatever you can do, because we want everybody a part of getting us to that goal. And I'm going to go another step further. These cost a little bit more, okay? These are our Arctic tumblers. They cost a little bit more than the coffee mug, but I'm also going to offer this one for $50 just during this call in this video. And just if you send an email to info, I-N-F-O, at txvalues.org. So you can say tumbler, all right? Make a $50 donation at least or more, and you can get the tumbler. And I got another option for you because, this is just me, okay? We have this brand new ornament, okay? I know Christmas just passed us, but many of us are still celebrating Christmas. I still have my Christmas tree up. This is our newest ornament. And, we got the artwork together, but the timing, it just didn't come in until right before Christmas. And so we didn't get to tell you as much about them, but there's the nativity scene on one side. You got our logo on the other side. I'm trying to match up where my screen is here. $50 also. So info is the email, info@txvalues.org. $50. You could say ornament, mug. Okay. This one with a come and take it. You get positioned here, or the Arctic tumbler. I'm going to get in trouble for that one. $50 as well. Tumbler, mug, or ornament. But look, if you can do more than $50, please do. But we know a lot of people are being challenged. Team up with a friend, all right? Get together and do a donation for $50, and you can get one of these great items. But I'll go through the last couple of slides, just show a little bit more about some of our work, how you can give. You could be a frontline friend, all right? Donations of $30 or more per month. You get this nice come and take it coin. It's really heavy and beautiful. My kids love it, with a great message. That's not the Gonzalez flag, okay? That is the Bible, because that's what we're dealing with these days. People that want to shut down Christian values and really want to make it illegal to talk about the Bible. So, but the Frontline Friends is monthly donations of $30 or more. You could start this month. You could also be a part of the Cornerstone Club. That's donations of $5,000 or more annually. Some nice little perks that go along with that, if you will, and benefits and ways to say thank you. Some special events, some special communication, free admission to a variety of different events that we have, and some priority seating. You can go to txvalues.org to see all the details there. But we just want to give you different opportunities of ways, and you can see a little bit about our work. The legislative session is happening. That's where we do the core part of our work. That starts in a couple of weeks. It's not free to have an office 2 blocks from the state capitol, but it matters a lot. Government belongs to those who show up. And that's why we're so close to the Capitol, so we can show up whenever we need to, whether it's a pro-life law, whether it's keeping churches open, our Faith and Family Day, which is on March 17th. Mark your calendars, March 17th. That's how we're able to be there. The State Board of Education work we did, having people like Mary Elizabeth, Jonathan Covey, different members of our team, Brian English, Rosemary, and other people that may be joining our team soon to help us do this work. To have a statewide impact, you got to have a team of people. And we've got people in the larger cities across the state helping us with our work. But a little bit more about some of the work we want to do as we try to expand and meet the work we're doing. We've got an opening. We got a full-time position for a communications associate. You might be looking for an opportunity now to do the type of work we do. Please send in your resume. Let us know. We'll get an interview set up. But that is a full-time position, and it has to be, because our communication work is very active. Also looking for interns if you're interested. But a little bit of detail. We've got a weekly show, the Texas Values Report, and the cost that goes along with that is about a little over $400 a month. And of course, the work we did to protect Christmas that we do every year. So David, I had you in earlier and then I forgot about you. And so look, you have been, that's because I couldn't see all my windows here. Look, we started this together in 2012, Texas Values. We're 8 years into this. I mean, you saw the impact that we had on the numbers of voters that we were able to touch this past election cycle so Christians could be more involved, and just the variety of the new projects we're doing. Look, it's great to have another year, walking alongside you, doing this work together, but you've seen it all as well. But you've also been able to see the return on investment when people make that tax deductible donation to Texas Values.
Absolutely, Jonathan. It's been amazing to see how the Lord has been faithful to the work that he has before us, and just the growing amount of supporters that we have across the state. Look, we know this has been a challenging, unprecedented year in a whole lot of ways, but we have so much to be thankful for. And one of the questions, I know Jonathan gets this, I get asked this a lot, is, well, how do y'all do all this work? Where do y'all raise y'all support? Look, we have thousands and thousands of supporters across the state of Texas at all levels. We are a true grassroots organization. You heard some of the stats about our engagement at the SBOE. We talked a lot today about our battles to make sure churches stay essential and so forth. Look, you are essential to the work that we do. Every one of our supporters is essential. And we would not have been able to navigate this challenging year without the faithful support, activism, and prayers that we have got from our supporters this year. It really has blown away any expectations that we had, when we were meeting and discussing what this year was going to look like earlier on when the shutdowns started and so forth. But it's been just an honor to continue to get to do this work. And look, 2021, like Jonathan said, a legislative session, it's just going to be so critically important what we're able to do at the state capitol, what Texas is going to do, help shape the rest of the country, and that's going to be even more important this next year. So I hope you can join us. Like Jonathan said, any amount that you can give. We amplify your donation through the work that we do. You may be able to just give a little bit, but you can know for sure that your donations are going to directly impact the future of the state of Texas for Christian Values. And I hope you'll join us in doing that before December 31st, which is tomorrow.
And yeah, look, and we've got the donation page pulled up. The clock's ticking, my friends, okay? We're 9 hours into the day and then 1 day left. Look, it's so interesting too, and I'm going to go a little off script, and now everybody's going to get nervous. But when I think about how members of our team became a part of our work, and so it was in December that Joseph came on with us during a very important fundraising and development time, and that's the work he does. And he came on, and Joseph, you got right to work, right? And you have to, right? In our work, you got to be ready to jump in and hit the ground running. But that's how quickly people can make an impact. And people can do that today, even though there's only, a little more than a day left, right? We've got this great website, Joseph. Just kind of scroll up and down so people can see a little bit of that detail there. There's a highlight video there we have. What else is on there, Joseph? Well, Joseph has to unmute himself. He was...
We have some information about the Cornerstone Club here, and we also have enhanced ways to give, which involves stock or mutual funds, planned giving, retirement, and this is a great organization. If you're thinking about donating to an organization, especially in a year like this where it's been tough for a lot of people, but you want to make sure your money goes to the right people and it's effective, Texas Values is a good organization that will earn every dollar.
That's it. That's all you need to know. Good stuff. Well, yeah. And look, sometimes more people I'm hearing are giving online this year than ever before. Some of that is because of, maybe virus issues, contact issues. People are in home more. Maybe people are navigating, health issues, whatever the case may be. Things have changed a little bit this year, as we know. And so there is people are giving online more. So we want people to see our website so they know what it looks like, how to navigate, where to fill in your name. If you have any problems, call our office, 512-478-2220. I haven't heard the phone ring since we've been on this video, and we are live. I'm sitting here in the office. How amazing would that be? Someone call just so I can feel like we actually, connected with someone on this video. I'm just having a little bit of fun. 512-478-2220. You know what? If you call right now in the next half hour, I sound like a commercial now, you can get the mug. But if you're going to do it online, info@txvalues.org, you got to send in a $50 donation. There's the phone. Beautiful. See, it's like magic. Now I feel like I'm Jerry Lewis on the telethon. But seriously, you want to call us, 512-478-2220. You want to go to our website, txvalues.org. You can do mug. You can do beautiful ornament. You can do, where is it? The Arctic tumbler, okay? With the logo, $50 or more. This is just a exclusive offer. We won't be offering it tomorrow, okay? It might get a little bit more expensive to get one of those gifts, but we want to meet you where you are, but we also want to say thank you. All right, and we'll have another update tomorrow as we get to the last day of the year. But, we're no different than you. Our families and us individually, we've had to navigate a whole lot of different things we weren't necessarily prepared for, or expecting this year. But we tried to stick to what we do best, which is protecting faith, family, and freedom in Texas. That's why that cross is on my wall. See, I'm going to get emotional now. That's why my law degree is on this side of the wall, because that's where I was called to use my Christian faith and to take my love and my interest in the law and policy to help people. It is about serving others. And so we tried to find whatever way we could to serve people, the pregnancy centers, the churches, individuals, just sometimes analyzing a lot of local law stuff that really, some of it didn't even relate to some of our issues specifically, but people we cared about, connecting them with elected officials. And so we'll continue to do that work. But please consider supporting us at txvalues.org, a tax-deductible donation by midnight, December 31st. Today would be great. And so our budget is about 1.4 million. We still have about, I don't remember the latest number, 40,000 or so to raise. Where the number is now, there's a matching grant in place. But I want to just also say thank you and be in prayer for us. Big legislative session coming up and a lot of opportunities, but a lot of eyes on Texas, on what Texas is going to do on some of the key issues that are pro-life and religious liberty. We can set the standard. We can set a model, an example for the rest of the country to follow. And how great would it be to do that here in the state of Texas? That's why our work is focused right here in Texas. It's not about doing things nationally. That's just not how we're designed. Some people are, they're doing great work in that. We're just focused on Texas. And as a fifth generation Texan myself, I'm proud to do that, but I don't do it alone. And I'm thankful for all the people that are part of our team, our board, and the thousands of people in all 254 counties. We have supporters that help us protect faith, family, and freedom in Texas. All right, so I'm going long. I apologize to members of our team and others. Thank you for sticking around a little bit. Share this video, like it, post a comment. And if you donate, come back and post a comment and say, hey, I sent an email to info@txvalues.org. Where's my mug? Where's my tumbler? Where's my ornament? I gave $50 or more. Share it. That way people can just, we can tomorrow to feel connected, even during some of the challenging times that we've had this year. So God bless you. And we'll have one more update before the year ends tomorrow on our Texas Values Facebook.